So, back in 1987, right in the heart of Brazil, something was found in an old abandoned building. It seemed totally harmless at first, but it ended up triggering one of the world's worst radiological disasters. This is a story about a danger that was hiding in plain sight, and how simple curiosity unleashed a catastrophe that would change a city forever. Just imagine you find something so beautiful, so mesmerizing, that you just have to share it with everyone you love. But what if that treasure, that beautiful thing, was silently, invisibly poisoning you and everyone around you? Okay, so let's set the scene. We're in Goiânia, Brazil. It's September 1987. Two local guys are scavenging for scrap metal, trying to make a living. They break into this abandoned medical clinic looking for anything they can sell. And, well, they find what they think is the jackpot. Tucked away inside this heavy piece of equipment, they find a small but really heavy metal capsule. They haul it off and sell it to a local junkyard owner. And later that day, he notices something incredible. In the dark, this little window on the capsule is putting out this enchanting, almost supernatural blue light. He was just completely captivated by it. He was so intrigued, he had to see what was inside. He manages to break the capsule open, and what spills out looks like actual magic, a sparkling crystalline powder that glows even more intensely now that it's out. But this wasn't magic. This was cesium-137, a highly radioactive salt. That beautiful blue glow, that was actually the radiation ionizing the very air around it. The thing is, the junkyard owner had no idea what he was dealing with. He brought the glowing powder into his home. He and his family were just mesmerized. They started calling it fairy dust. And what happened next? Well, that's what turned this little discovery into a city-wide contamination event. So you have to be asking, where on earth did this thing come from? Well, the capsule is what's known as an orphan source. It's a term for sealed radioactive material, usually from medical or industrial gear that's been lost, stolen, or just plain abandoned. It's completely off the books with zero regulatory control. This particular orphan source was the core component of a radiotherapy machine, the kind used for cancer treatment. When the clinic moved, they just left this highly dangerous device behind. A tool that was meant for healing had become a ticking time bomb, just sitting there waiting for someone to find it. And the way this contamination spread was just tragically simple. The junkyard owner's friends and relatives all came over to see this glowing marvel. He even gave out little bits of the powder as gifts. People rubbed it on their skin like it was glitter. His 6-year-old niece played with it. In just a matter of days, this deadly fairy dust had been carried into dozens and dozens of homes all across the city. That sense of wonder and excitement, it didn't last long. Very soon after the powder started making the rounds, this mysterious illness started sweeping through everyone who had come anywhere near it. The symptoms were severe, and they came on fast. It started with relentless vomiting and diarrhea. Then came these alarming skin lesions. They looked like terrible burns, appearing on the parts of their bodies that had actually touched the powder. Nobody had any idea what was happening. People started flocking to local clinics, but the doctors were completely baffled. They figured it was some kind of severe allergic reaction or maybe a contagious tropical disease. No one, not a single person, made the connection to that beautiful blue powder. And all the while, the victims were still living in their contaminated homes, their bodies just absorbing more and more radiation. As the days turned into weeks and people just kept getting sicker, one person's courage would finally connect the dots. Her name was Maria Gabriela Ferreira. Maria Gabriela was the wife of the junkyard owner. She'd been one of the very first to get sick, and as she watched her friends and family all suffer from the exact same symptoms, she realized the one thing they all had in common was that glowing stuff from the junkyard. What she did next was an act of just incredible courage. Even though she was seriously ill, she put what was left of the radioactive source into a plastic bag, got on a city bus, and walked right into a public health clinic. She placed it on the doctor's desk and said, "This is what is killing us." That single act of bravery finally broke the mystery wide open and triggered a massive public health emergency. So, the truth was out. But the nightmare? Oh, it was far from over. The city of Goiânia now had to face the horrifying reality of widespread radiological contamination and a long, painful aftermath. The scale of the response was just immense. Officials were terrified of a citywide catastrophe, so they started this frantic screening process. Get this, Over 112,000 people, that's nearly 10% of the city's entire population at the time, had to be tested. They were desperately trying to map this invisible poison and find everyone who'd been exposed. Hundreds of people were confirmed to be contaminated. They were suffering from acute radiation sickness, which is just a devastating illness that attacks your body from the inside out. For so many of them, the exposure meant lifelong health problems and deep scars, both physical and psychological, that would never, ever fade. In the end, 4 lives were tragically lost. And in a heartbreaking twist, this included Maria Gabriela, the very hero who exposed the danger and saved countless others. The 6-year-old girl who had so innocently played with the glowing dust, she died too. 4 people gone just because a dangerous object was forgotten and left behind. The Goiânia accident became a horrifying but absolutely crucial lesson for the entire world. It just drove home the absolute necessity for what's called cradle-to-grave control of all radioactive materials. It showed how critical it is to have emergency plans ready for these kinds of incidents, and it proved, tragically, that simple public awareness of these dangers can be the difference between life and death. The cleanup in Goiânia took months and cost millions, but it leaves us with a really chilling final thought. The source in Goiânia was lost for over 15 years before it was found. It really makes you wonder how many other of these forgotten, ticking time bombs are still out there, just waiting in abandoned buildings for the next curious person to come along.